that's not necessarily going to be all that much when you're going up against the powerhouse like BLG.
Indeed. Well, we'll take a look to see as we are kind of running out of the gates here. A little bit of a battle happening over in the outside skirmish area. Right into this mega health pack. Gigi already low, will be taken down by Yakumo. So already looking solid for Bilibili, not even needing to fight near the point as they will clean things up. And it will just be a free point opening up for Bilibili.
Yeah, they're going to be able to take this cap very, very quickly once it actually goes online there, you know. Team kill even before the point is available. So it's going to be very easy, 3 people on the point, and now this is going to be a big opening here for Shy to just farm up some charge. He's down on a grand total of 2, 10 now, actually, but we know that Shy can actually get a lot of value off on this Zarya, so having these opening opportunities to be able to get ahead in that game is great.
Looking to see how they're going to try to push forward, already at 16% and counting up. Billy looking to just absolutely just zone everybody away at the moment, just getting themselves involved. Gigi in a really tough spot. It does have full charge. Down barrier will come out to try to assist in the effort here, which will force Bilibili back. But CC, you hate to see it. Over able to knock him off with those big gorilla fists, and with the self-destruct sequence coming down, it looks like this will be once again another team fight win for Bilibili.
Yeah, Bilibili now going to have a big advantage here as they have one of their support ultimates online already, very close to the second, whereas Alter Ego, as you said, they used that sound barrier to try and push through. They lost their Zarya, they weren't actually able to even touch the point. So Bilibili Gaming getting closer and closer to this 50% mark, with Alter Ego yet to even see the point.
Yeah, it doesn't even have it in their sight line. They need to get the binoculars out to see exactly how they're going to approach this. They will find some success at least breaking into the area. We'll call it the arena for now as they're trying to work their way towards that point. But you can already see Jin has already put himself in a spot to kind of just push through, make sure nobody can get comfortable. Rick off by himself, actually. You got to be careful here for Alter Ego. Need to find a way to come right back into this. They've got a couple ultimates they could utilize, including the Primal Rage, which does come out right now, and that's actually in the face of Jin. Not exactly the best target in the world. Now JCho moving back towards the point. We'll try to slap his way through and try to push the people off or into that tight cubbyhole, but really finding the value you would like to see from the Primal Rage. They at least put themselves on top of the point, but still a lot of work to do here as you see the Transcendence and the Sound Barrier being utilized. Actually, all the supports being utilized as far as their ultimates for Bilibili. Shy working so closely to get this next Graviton Surge, but Over will be the first one in the Primal Rage to start making some waves here on point. Able to find 2 kills on the support line and will knock the Zarya a little bit closer to the rest of the team and up the wall as well. 100% already reached. Bilibili barely even finding a single death on their side that time through.
Yeah, that was virtually effortless there for Bilibili, taking that point very quickly. And I think something that you did touch on while casting their shift was that JCho wasn't necessarily getting the value that you would have liked to have seen. And there were a couple of moments like that Primal Rage that he used, not necessarily going for the best target where he could clear the most space, but he also jumped in receiving a projected barrier off of his Zarya and then not really aggressing upon anyone. So it's sort of like a wasted resource, and he wasn't really, you know, doing what you would like to see out of a main tank. So going into Shrine, I'd like to see him maybe being a little bit more forward and trying to clear some more space for his team. Otherwise, Bilibili are just going to roll straight over them all over again.
And I almost wonder if you take this 3-3 mirror matchup into hand and you just at a certain point Alter Ego just not going to be able to stay in. I mean, Shy didn't even have to use a Graviton Surge that last time. Granted, he got it late in the fight, but it doesn't even make a difference. He didn't even need to use it to win the fight out. So if you're Alter Ego, I kind of like this change of pace. Force Bilibili to respond to you a little bit. And it looks like they will do so as Shy will be putting himself on the McCree. It looks like Over will switch on over, no pun intended, to the Winston. So a little bit more of a mobile comp for the front line here, but it does come at the cost of a very stationary DPS player in McCree.
Yeah, but we're going to be really looking for that McCree to bring down a Giant on this Pharah, because it's going to force him to play a little bit more conservatively, as there is that risk. JChell's straight down there. And
you're looking at, I hesitate to say solo frontline because you do still have Rick playing on the Diva, but essentially without that Wrecking Ball being there, you're going to be very hard-pressed to stay in mech, which is exactly what happens next. And now with no frontliners whatsoever in front, Billy will just move through and try to clean up the squishy bodies in front of them. Still have to deal with the Pharah, though. They do have a couple of nice eliminations on hand, but as far as definitely dealing a lot of damage, nice little flashbang there to make sure that the Mercy stays grounded, and now the EMP to make sure that nobody else can move anywhere, although J-Chow will be able to get a minefield off for 2 eliminations, and Gigi's actually able to bounce back and find one more as he chases on through on the Sombra. So, again, Alter Ego just putting themselves on the front foot here, saying, Bilibili, yes, we know that you're so good, but we're going to try to keep you on the back foot as much as possible. They're already up to 50% of the capture.
I really like that the Alter Ego stuck to their guns and actually decided to sort of hang around on the point while Bilibili hadn't actually taken the cap back off of them, because it was a moment where you would maybe expect a team to reset, but they had that Pharah and Mercy dancing around on the point long enough that it allowed the rest of the team to make their way back and actually keep possession of it.
And again, that possession is still in hand for Alter Ego, looking to set up potentially a barrage here as Giant, as he's floating in the inner areas. Not exactly the skybox that you want, but it does provide you some line of sight breaks because there is a little dome there, and Giant is finding some reprieve there in the back. And Over's actually the first one down, and that's immediately going to call for the barrage to come in, as he will only find just the one to self-destruct to respond. Zinchin able to find himself 2 huge picks, as he's able to get down not only the Zenyatta, but also the Wrecking Ball, although that hamster will come back after the res, but a lot of the damage has already been met, and Jay-Chow will find his doom once again. Finally a turn for Bilibili, and it really wasn't all that expensive for Alter Ego, but of course being staggered out like that early means it is very hard to find it because Kobo-centric team fight.
Yeah, and potentially this is going to be quite hard for Alter Ego to break back through. We're going to be really looking for Gigi to try and get off some good hacks, potentially build up that EMP and use that and have that as the opening. Now, luckily for Alter Ego, they do have some time, given that they have 92% on the board, and Bilibili have only just managed to take it back. But this could be one of those situations where we just see it be somewhat of a monolith to break through. So we want to see some really good coordination come from Alter Ego revolving around that Sombra.
In Alter Ego, I think at this point you just need to try to find a way to get the ultimate economy back in their favor, because Bilibili are looking at 5 ults right now. You see the Kumo obviously able to take out the rally, so there's a little bit extra armor for everybody, and your Bilibili are trying to make sure that you can utilize that to the fullest, but Over is down first, so now an opportunity for Alter Ego to potentially move on forward. They do have the EMP ready, and you can see Gigi's looking for a way to possibly utilize it, as without that frontliner being there is an opportunity in front of them. Alter Ego will hit the EMP, and it finds 3, and a little bit of a hack onto the Brigitte, but they do lose Jay-Chow. You can see the damage is not quite here yet, although B612 will be able to trade things away, so still number advantage for the side of Alter Ego, but they don't really have the support ultimates to stay in, and B612, he had the Transcendence, but could not get it off before he fell, so this fight, the longer it goes, actually favors Bilibili, since they have got themselves Yakumo back very quickly as he switched over to the Doomfist. You've got Over in the Primal Rage, and Giant is trying to do what he can to keep this fight in Alter Ego's favor, able to take down Coldest. Yakumo also falling, so all of a sudden Alter Ego, they're now in control of the numbers. So can they find the Diva? Yes, they absolutely can. Another hack comes through, and that looked like it might just be it as long as they can clean up. Alter Ego will bounce back on stride and tie this up 1-1.
It's getting pretty exciting. It's getting a little bit more of a threat for Bilibili. But I do think that the fact that Alter Ego used both their support ultimates after Bilibili did there in their fight allowed them to turn things around. Of course, they did build up that EMP at the end there. Maybe not perfectly necessary, as they did have the advantage by that point. But now Bilibili have got to be aware that actually Alter Ego could provide a threat, and they could start taking these maps back. It's maybe not going to be quite as much as a steamroll. They've been so far really going for Jay-Chow. He seems like an easy target, but perhaps they should be switching things up a little bit, going a bit more for Gigi or even Giant.
I'm really impressed with Giant so far. It's been the biggest thing for me. It comes down to the fact that he was able to do a lot by himself. I mean, of course, you got to give out some props to May 9, because honestly, he did a lot to get himself the damage boost, but also the heal. But Giant looked really, really solid. So again, you're going to come out of base here with the pharmacy combination for Alter Ego. And even with the McCree online for Billy Geo, it just did not look like it was enough of a response. Giant was still floating for free.
Yeah, absolutely not. Billy making a dive on the back here, and so far we know that they generally prefer to favor GOAT sort of composition, so the fact that they're now sort of playing to Alter Ego's tune is really something to note, putting Yakumo on the point here to try and cap it, but of course being caught out is probably going to allow Alter Ego their in to be able to take the point for themselves.
Yeah, and Bilibili doesn't have a way to really contest all that well. I mean, you have the Tracer here who's doing a nice job of tracking down Jay-Chow. He will be taken out, looking for the Sombra now, and that's actually a pretty free line of sight as well. No translocator apparently available. Over will try to join in, but is very low again, and Rick is able to find the elimination. So without the main frontliner here, all of a sudden, Alter Ego could potentially bounce back. They do lose their Zenyatta, but there's plenty of sustain and plenty of frontline here, and you still have Giant floating around who nobody seems to be paying attention. We'll finally be hacked, but is there enough damage around? Looks like this time there is, and that might need all that would be there for Billy to come back in as they're off the respawn, looking to make their way back into point. Jchow also falling very low. The Mercy has to get out of dodge. Will be able to do so, but this looks like it will be Bilibili with the flip. And, well, not part of it. They didn't even need to flip as they were able to stall Alter Ego from getting the full control. So they're going to just find some free capture percentage here, getting up above 30%.
Yeah, and Shy is just going around, building some more ult charge here, but importantly, they do have that EMP ready to go. And on a point like this here on Village, where you have this sort of, this room at the point where you can have a lot of members of a team. Oh, well, I was going to say do the EMP, but do the airborne EMP there.
No, and this is looking really solid as Giant is able to take down Yakumo. So, Yakumo B here, is there enough actual distraction to keep them in this fight? A lot of low health pools here. Giant, will he let the barrage drip? Might not even need to. Doesn't look to be so. Nice little tracking shot there onto Lucio as well. And a very quick flip back for Alter Ego. They're just getting some capture percentage of their own after the clean fight.
Yeah, perfectly allowing them to take that back for themselves. Now, what I want to see here is them trying to bait out that Transcendence from Coldest, because that will leave Giant wide open to use that barrage, because, of course, going against that Zenyatta, going against the healing, it may be a little bit harder. But Bilibili do have a number of ultimates of their own. They got that Pulse Bomb so ready to go, and there we go, straight onto the mech.
Exactly what you want. Actually, the area of effect of it actually took down B612. So now Giant looking to respond with the barrage as May is able to get up B612 from the res, but the barrage did not really find as much as I think he wanted to. Zijin tried to check down this Mercy. Out of the thrusters, though, doesn't make a difference. Yakumo was able to meet him on the other side of the point, and just like that, you blink and you miss it. Bilibili able to respond back and flip the point back in their favor. Just 37% for Alter Ego.
And now Alter Ego, they're going to be having to rely on the EMP as a number of their ultimates are down to the bottom. Most importantly, that barrage from Giant isn't going to be available. The minefield as well could help force Bilibili out of the point and allow Alter Ego to start getting some percentage on here for themselves.
Giant, though, we've seen him be a major influence so far. You have to figure that a lot of the team is looking at him to potentially do more of the work here as well. Take a look to see what will happen first. CZ does have an EMP, wants to try to find an area to move in. Will actually hit it a little bit early. It only finds Over, and he's immediately healed up as Coldest is able to put himself into the Transcendence very quickly. Still support ultimates left for Bilibili, although they do use Yakumo. The Sound Barrier coming out just a touch late, but they're self-destructful too. And that's going to be likely enough to clean up the rest of the fight. Not the numbers you need here for Alter Ego. They gave it quite a fight, though, and I think it's put everybody a little bit further on the edge of their seat. It's just not going to be enough for the control. Bilibili will take it 2-1.
Yeah, but something really important to note that we did kind of mention earlier is the fact that Bilibili may have been able to win, but it was only after they actually changed their composition to answer to what Alter Ego were bringing out. I mentioned before, they're very, very in favor of these more standard GOATS compositions, but instead we saw them bringing out the Sombra, we saw them bringing out the Tracer, things that aren't necessarily quite as orthodox that we see these days. And so, yes, they managed to turn things around, but they really had to chase Alter Ego for the kind of havoc that they were causing in order to bring things back around in their favor.
Yeah, it honestly, and as we get Panda back involved, I know he's going to have a lot to say because it looked very, very one-sided at the beginning. But my goodness, Giant playing up to his name so far.
Yeah, hey, you would almost forget that they showed a Widowmaker as their hero choice at the beginning of that. So I mean, when you have fantastic support roles going around you too, the entire team was setting up for success. I mean, the pile drives were always being corralled because of the rockets and the damage, but this was all because of GG. You cannot undersell, especially off of the matchup we just previously saw in the first game of the day, how oppressive a Sombra can be when finding key hacks and EMPs time and time again. BLG, like you said, Geo, they would prefer to play these standard 3-3 compositions, but even on DPS and they bring their own EMP to the table is where they can find success too. Let's not forget that Shy is a fantastic McCree, Tracer, Zarya, they can do it all. Just anything that's track inducive and has critical headshots and any sort of big burst damage, yeah, this guy's going to be able to pull it off, and they were able to execute it very well off the tempo pace that was kind of put on par for Alter Ego. And BLG, man, I mean, they didn't necessarily have an answer for it come Shrine, but come onto Village, and that area just isn't exactly friendly for Zijin self-destructs.
I mean, Geo, so as we go further into the set, I mean, this was the one moment of success that we really saw for Alter Ego. I mean, again, Giant playing like a monster, and we were kind of prefacing the second stage here of Nepal is, okay, well, you're obviously getting outmatched in the 3-3 matchup. Do we think that this is going to be just a general pick? Like, if you're alter ego, you're down, you get to go for where you want to go next. I mean, do you just try to find damage-oriented maps from here on out so you can play a little bit further away from the 3-3 that you're getting outmatched at?
Well, there's two sides to this coin, because you have the issue where, you know, it could be a really good pick for you, a comfort pick, you know you can play it well, but then you start to become predictable, and that's when it makes it a lot easier for a team like Bilibili to actually adapt and learn to play around you. Now, yes, maybe Giant will be going in with a little bit more confidence, knowing that in spite of the fact that Shy, as you say, Panda is a very, very good hit scan, nonetheless, he managed to outplay him on the Pharah. That may give him some confidence to go forward and play some more of this, but it's only a matter of time until you get caught out when you try and play the same thing over and over again, especially something that's maybe a little bit off meta.
Panda, final take. What do you got as far as what Alter Ego needs to do quickly?
Don't fix what ain't broke. Solo tank, DPS all day.
All right, there it is. We'll be back with map 2 here just after that. Brilliant insight from Panda and Geo. We'll be back with the number 2, though. Don't go anywhere. For DPS, I know the viewers at home, I'm sure, want that as well. And Geo, honestly, that's probably where you want to be heading if you're Alter Ego, considering the 3-3 matchup that we saw between these two teams in the first stage of Nepal was a little bit more lopsided.
I mean, firstly, would it be China if you didn't have a composition like that? But
You're right.
I mean, secondly, yeah, no, it's true, especially as J-Chow, the main tank for Alter Ego, is the member who keeps getting the most targeted. Is if you're running a GOAT-centric composition, you can't really afford to be constantly losing the main tank. Whereas if you're running a more DPS-centric composition, you can revolve a lot more around these independent DPS heroes, where the main tank is also running a little bit more independently and doing their own thing, which, yes, can help. You can, of course, combine those pile drivers with you know, getting rockets in or whatever, but it's not necessarily the be all and end all, and you can definitely survive a lot longer just off of the pure mechanical skill of your DPS heroes. And so far that's been working out fairly well for Alter Ego, you know, being able to run that Pharah against Shy's Nekrich, not something you see every day.
Definitely not something you see every day. And you know, now as we kind of transition over towards Blizzard World, at the first stage, I would say, you know, we typically see mostly teams in this current patch, again, we're on the old 1.32 patch, still kind of default towards the 3-3 comps, but this is definitely an area where you can get away with utilizing some more damage-centric comps, maybe not in solo frontline fashion, but still, the fact of the matter is you can pull something out that is a little bit more unique, and it looks like as we are seeing the airborne shots, there is a pharmacy online with it looks to be the same comp for Alter Ego, actually. They're going to bring the Sombra, as well as you're having the Wrecking Ball with another Diva mech involved.
Yeah, and interestingly, we're also seeing Bilibili bring out those DPS heroes with the Tracer and the Sombra. So we're going to be looking out for those to be causing as much havoc as possible in the back line, or even on anybody on Alter Ego here, especially looking out for those hacks, which could potentially bring the pharmacy out of the sky.
Well, now that we have both Zenyatta's traded away, it looks like it will be Alter Ego trying to make their way over to point, and Gigi will actually be hacked and taken down by his, Yakuma will be taken down by his counterpart, and again, just trades back and forth. The trades are actually finding a lot of value here for Shy as he's just kind of dancing around the point and the stick on the res. Don't even bother bringing that back to life. Just go ahead and meet your maker yourself. But again, you're just looking at the one support with now Zenyatta coming back into the mix very late for Bilibili. They still have over here though, so they're able to at least stall out this third tick, but still have some work to do to clear it. As you can see, the rest of Alter Ego is coming back to the point, but they've lost J-Chow, and now the next person in sight, it has to be Giant. But again, a lot has been taken down as you're seeing the D-Mech as well as Mika being taken out. This big support duo that we've been talking so well about has not really done that much. And as the hack comes through, the EMP out, Giant will go into the barrage, able to find himself too in the res with Gigi. It's looking good for Alter Ego.
So beautifully combined there, of course. The EMP and the barrage is somewhat of a classic, but also Alter Ego knew that Coldest not only didn't have his transcendence, but he was also well away from the team, hiding off in that side room as Mika had been brought down and he needed to do what he could to keep himself alive, trading that Harmony Orb amongst a number of members of his team just to try and keep them up. But of course, once that EMP barrage comes out, there's only so much you can do, and surviving isn't generally one of them.
Typically not, but I definitely want to keep my eye on this Bilibili support front line because Coldest and Mika have been put in very awkward spots so far. EMP coming through for Yakumo as well as the Transcendence. Trying to get aggressive as Bilibili, trying to work the high ground by the siege tank. Yakumo will have to bail on out with the Translocator, and Over, who's in the primal range, they don't find much with this actually whatsoever. The minefield also came down, self-destruct, will take down Giant, and really for Alter Ego, that was your main source of damage, and as you see, their main tank also dropping away. It looks like Bilibili will be able to win this fight, but this was an expensive one for them, Geo.
Yeah, it's a shame there that they did end up using that EMP, of course, going for another one of the airborne ones to try and bring the Pharaoh out the sky, and the hack didn't actually hit Giant whatsoever. So it means that they won't be coming into this next fight with an EMP, which is an ultimate that can take some time to build up. You really have to go farming for those tanks. And with J-Cho being the only tank, well, actually, Rick, sorry, is on the Diva. I missed that one. So actually, he can go for these tanks, but nonetheless, you're kind of going to be mourning the fact that you don't have that EMP on your side.
And it doesn't really feel so much. I mean, the fact of the matter is with Alter Ego's comp, you are kind of relying on J-Chow to kind of take over what would still be like the solo frontline mentality, with Rick trying to float and trying to push people off the high ground and kind of be there and kind of bounce in and out. So, I mean, I definitely can see why we're essentially putting a lot of weight on J-Chow as that main tank. Giant, though, with an opportunity to move on in, has a nice little high ground spot here, but D612 and May will be taken down as Zijin able to find himself a nice little angle. You see the Tracer also getting involved in that siege tank area, and again, it's just been a lot of high ground control for Billy, although Alter Ego is able to bounce back with 2 kills, and Zijin is just actually diving on in. Very awkward spot to be doing so. Will be stunned and taken out of mech. Over's also very low, and again, Mika and Coldest have to be wondering, what exactly do we do when our frontliners are going in and outnumbered? Fortunately, Zijin's able to get out as well as Over is as well, so Alter Ego will find some sustain in this push, but Bilibili not quite going away yet, just with a soft reset for the defense.
Yeah, Mika and Coldest are, of course, going to be prepared because they do have their ultimates online, but it's just going to be a race now to see if they get them baited out first, because to come out of one of these little rooms while you've got a Pharaoh shooting into them is actually very difficult.
The Transcendence was utilized, but not able to keep Shy alive as it faded away just as he was going for the pulse bomb stick onto May, just a little bit short. Giant now with a barrage, they'll be able to help out, taking down Over, so no front line here for Bilibili, who honestly is looking a little bit in shambles at the moment. You can see exactly, Zijin was completely away from his support line. You see Coldest is all the way back by this front gate, and this is just not what you want to see from Billy. They're a little bit spread apart, and Alter Ego's taking absolutely advantage of it.
Yeah, but Yakumo here getting ready to use that EMP shift.
Oh, is able to find himself at least 4. Mika able to take down J-Chow, and it looks like with that swap over from the Winston, pardon me, from the Hammond over to the Winston, it's looking like that will just be a little bit more time before he can get the primal range online. Billy will be able to respond, but Geo, as we have a little break of the action here now, it's been a little bit strange to see Billy be a little bit kind of taken out of their parts at the moment.
Yeah, they do seem to be a little bit out of their comfort zone. Perhaps this is not sort of the composition that they've been used to running or scrimming, so they're trying to have to communicate and get things together to specifically go against what Alter Ego are bringing. And especially now, Alter Ego, they've got just over a minute to take the cart, what was about 5 meters, but slowly edging backwards. And Bilibili so far have only got the self-destruct online. It's going to be pretty difficult for them to gain power over such a good composition and such good coordination coming out from Alter Ego with so many ultimates online.
Yeah, and they need to take advantage of this as soon as possible. As soon as they can force out Coldest's Transcendence, it's going to have to be all gas pedal for Alter Ego. You want to get this off before the EMP comes down. Shy is also very close to a pulse bomb. We know he can be very deadly with it. The Valkyrie expires, and Alter Ego has not found much from it. Now the Primal Rage coming into effect, and J-Chow looking to do what he can to keep the whole team spread apart, as they've done relatively successfully so far. But it's not exactly what it's just that they really need it. They will find Over at least. Transcendence still not popped. Here it comes for Coldest. It will be in response to B612. Giant, no, he gets hacked. He was looking for a barrage setup, but GG not quite able to get the hack and get the displacement he needed, so Giant will be hacked away. No barrage comes through. It looks like Bilibili will try to hold on as Over is back into this fight and are just trying to duel out these frontliners. Rick is taken down. EMP comes through. I don't know if that's exactly the timing that you wanted to use that if you're GG. It was already pretty much a lost fight with J-Chow so low. They tried to use it to save him. Not going to be the case. And now the EMP coming through for Yakumo will ground through both May and deny the mech coming from Rick. And it looks like that should be a wipe for Bilibili. Just in the nick of time, they will sustain through the overtime just before capture point B.
Whew, sweaty palms. I think the really key thing there was the fact that they did manage to force out that Transcendence. But honestly, I'm more interested in knowing what Panda thinks about this, because that was getting pretty close there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, like, for Alter Ego themselves, that composition basically thrives off of controlled chaos, right? If you're losing B612 at the beginning of these fights, that's okay for Alter Ego because that's that's tank resources that aren't being invested in shutting down Giant, but it's a double-edged sword, right? So if you end up committing that much and you're losing your support that early, then you don't have anything to push for the mid-fight, and that's where Bilibili Gaming are looking ahead. They have the Sombra and the Tracers still left alive, so long as B612 are down and that Discord Orb can't be pushed on to Bilibili Gaming and their Tracer, Shy's just free to roam around and do as they please, finding tons of free damage off on the backline, which is where you saw J-Chow swapping over to Winston onto the streets phase of Blizzard World and finding almost value, but it just wasn't enough to find enough space. That's where the hamster really comes through for that composition. Finding pile drivers on top of that that control chaos, you almost have to basically trust your Zenyatta, B612, not to always take that poke because it leaves them wide open to a dive continuously. Yeah. They need to stay alive in those engagements, but Bilibili Gaming are playing Alter Ego quite literally like a CD. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Alter Ego are not bringing any sort of crowd control to this fight, and that's just what Bilibili Gaming are finding success in. They're not getting locked down.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, Geo.
I was just going to say, I have to agree with what he was saying about Shy, especially once Bilibili managed to force Alter Ego into that middle room. Shy was just so easy, like so available to get so much damage in on the team and bring them down.
It just seems really strange. I mean, this Bilibili squad that we've seen in the past has been, I mean, a lot of teams have decided to fight the 3-3 against them so far, and this is not the case with Alter Ego. Decided to go with more of that damage-centric comp again, bringing out the pharmacy combination. The same lineup that we saw them do on offense, they'll bring on defense. And Billy just looked a little bit spread apart, maybe not necessarily familiar with how to utilize this Tracer with the Sombra, as you've been seeing a lot of just spread out kind of setups from Billy so far. But now the Tracer, oh, he's got himself a clip right in front of B612, but he gets immediately discorded and then headshot right in return. So see you later, have fun. And looking at a 5-on-4, as we will actually favor the numbers of Alter Ego here defensively, and Giant will be able to clean up one more. And Dakota, this first attempt of an offense from Billy will be immediately shut down.
Yeah, Bilibili actually all being quite spread out there, going for a number of members of Alter Ego, of course, at the beginning. Shy there going for B612, didn't quite work out in his favor, but then that also made it so much easier for Alter Ego to clean up the other members over next going down, and then of course Giant just catching Zijin out at the end there, and you can't make a push on that, so they're gonna have to go out, and it's gonna bring down the time bank even more.
Oh, look at Gigi already with an EMP. All you have to do is hit this EMP on the coldest, and he does miss it, but doesn't make a difference. The rest of the damage follows up, and Zenyatta was the first target down, but Shy was able to clean up all of the support line on his own on the Tracer on the opposite side of the map. Now switching over to his perspective as he drives around the point, able to find himself the pulse bomb charge now too. Might not even need it though. It's just really Sombra left to clean up. And it looks like that was actually a very well-played game there for Billy. Again, Alter Ego had the start that they wanted, but not quite able to follow up.
Yeah, quite importantly there, GG did use that EMP, but by that point, most of Bilibili were actually already on the point, and it made it a lot harder for Alter Ego to actually try and move in, take the point back. They'd already taken one tick, and then another, of course. Now finally being able to take the payload, moving forward in the next phase of their attack. And of course, they don't even have to get to the next checkpoint because Alter Ego didn't get there themselves.
And now you take a look at the resources involved. I mean, Alter Ego, you needed to win that fight. And now you take a look at Bilibili. They have the Transcendence, and now they have the EMP, and they have the numbers advantage without even really have to use much, as Shy is able to work his way in to find two more. Goodness, this Tracer has been absolutely devastating so far on offense. Maybe not so much on the defensive side of things, but for Billy playing aggressively, they're able to get right on in. Says Alter Ego, you want to play aggro, you want to play DPS? We can do that as well. Now just all they need to do is hit this second checkpoint, Geo, and they've hit the golden checkpoint towards that second point of the scoreboard.
Now Alter Ego pretty much just have one chance here, because if they are to all die in this next fight, then it's not going to take long for Bilibili Gaming to actually take the payload the next few meters that they require to get to that final box.
Kumo trying to position and posture for an EMP. Giant doing a pretty good job of just staying on the high ground and staying away, but again, the damage has to come in if you want to try to push this team back for Bilibili. 5 ultimates, almost all 6. Now it comes down to who's going to hit things first. Gigi will start things off with an EMP. We'll find 2. Yakumo goes down, so no EMP for Bilibili. All of a sudden, Gigi wants to move on forward, but there's still a lot of work to be done as you see the self-destruct sequence comes through, and even right as the Transcendence was about to fade away, P612 gets taken down, and Alter Ego, they're losing numbers left and right, and it was a nice start once again for Alter Ego. They get the hack off onto Yakumo, they take him down first, but there's just not enough follow-up from the front line. Bilibili will clean up and find themselves successful here on Blizzard World, now up 2-0 in the set.
Very quick push there, and of course, Alter Ego, they got very overwhelmed at the end. Bilibili had so many ultimates that they could use against them, not even opting to use the EMP in the end. It was just sort of left there.
No, but Panda, okay, so you hit us very quickly between the map sets. I will still tell you that I am still impressed at the fact that Alter Ego is able to get as much work done as they have been with the DPS, but it looks like there's been some kind of response. Shy has been popping on the Tracer.
Very, very prideful is Alter Ego on this, the forcing of the pharmacy composition everywhere. I mean, you only have so many buildings that you can play around until you're actually forced to play on the point as defense. Go figure that you have to stop that capture eventually. And by the time you're playing Pharah on that set, on that first point defense, is that all high ground is accessible both to Yakumo and Shy. And I'm glad that you brought up Shy, putting on their own little clinic, their own personal highlight reel, because Alter Ego themselves are not wanting to shut it down. Again, no McCree. No sort of crowd control whatsoever. Not even a Roadhog. Come on, Alter Ego. You got to shut down this backline pressure eventually. You can take a look at some of these highlights and be sure Giant was able to find a lot of value onto this Pharah with some mad decent barrages, some really good direct rockets and punishes with melee cancels on top of that. But it just isn't ever enough. You need more towards the mid to late fight, like I was mentioning in the middle of the half. And when you don't have support ultimates from it, is just when Shy and Yakumo are just able to walk all over top of you. I mean, this composition doesn't necessarily need tanks to create space because the DPS are able to do it for them. That's where the crowd control comes from. You needed Alter Ego. You need it in the next 2 maps if you want to turn this around and get a map victory before heading into the final week.
And that's the big thing, Geo. We still have yet to see a map win, but I would say that we've kind of hit this pretty strongly with Alter Ego. Yes, Giant has played well. The pharmacy has, generally so worked. But for the front line, it seems to still be the big issue. This is just not matching up on paper between Bilibili and Alter Ego.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's kind of what we expected coming into the game anyway. And you are right that it has been somewhat of a surprise to see how, how successful that they have been in causing an issue for Bilibili, but I do agree with you. Bilibili so far in this entire season have lost 1 map. Alter Ego haven't even won a single one. So at this point, it's not it's just not good enough to say, oh, actually, they were so close, they nearly got it, because come on, they haven't actually got any maps in the whole season thus far, and it's great if you're close, but it's not enough.
Not enough yet. We still have a 2-0, and we have 2 more maps to come still. Bilibili has the lead. Alter Ego still searching for that first map. We'll be back with map number 3 just after this. Welcome back, everybody. We continue on with Bilibili Gaming taking an Alter Ego IHOLDSHIFT. That's Geo that way, this way, that way, I think. I think I got you right.
You got it right.
I never ever know with these things, but Geo, we've seen a pretty electric game so far. Maybe not as neat and co-eccentric as Bilibili would like, but Alter Ego has kind of set the world on fire with this Pharah gameplay.
Yeah, we certainly had a bit of a shock to the system when we were in Shrine on Nepal, with Alter Ego actually managing to take that point. Although we're looking like we're going to have a sub coming into this next map. We're going to have Kaze coming in for Rick on the side of Alter Ego. So going to have a little bit of a different off-tank there.
And I was about to say, it's been strange. We were talking very briefly about the fact that obviously the Wrecking Ball is being played by J-Chow, but we were kind of being overshadowed or really not talking much about Rick on his Diva gameplay because he was kind of playing this weird balance of, am I really playing with the Wrecking Ball as a frontliner or am I playing to support my backline? It was kind of a weird balance of trying to do both. And maybe there was a little bit more that he could bite off than he could chew. So when it comes down to Bilibili Gaming, as we go into the assault, I mean, again, 2 CP, typically you see the second of every point out there favoring the 3-3 comp in this current patch. So that's going to be a very strong point for Billy no matter where we decide to go. But for Alter Ego, I mean, how exactly do you plan on bouncing back? Because you're going to have to play 3-3 at some point in time, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the difficult thing, as we saw on the first point of Nepal, that their 3-3 just wasn't up to par, especially compared to BLG, so they obviously came out with more DPS that's been working fairly well for them, especially Giant on that Pharah. We pointed him out a number of times. He did get taken down and a bit more bullied in Blizzard World, especially as BLG, they were running the Tracer and the Sombra, and when you kind of have to play quite low to the ground, you're very, very ready to become a victim to their abilities. So it is something that AE are going to be struggling with. I would imagine that they are probably going to be quite persistent. We are going to be going into Horizon Lunar Colony, but I reckon they'll be quite persistent in what it is they want to play, and probably try and hold off from playing those Ghost compositions as much as they can. Yeah. Because at the very least, playing DPS, they know that they're playing something that mechanically works for them. Whereas Goats, they already know going into the fight that they are going to be at that disadvantage.
Well, we'll take a look to see how this one starts off. Again, Horizon Lunar Colony, especially for this first point, we definitely see some more unique setups for defense. Unique is the word I will use, and I will stick to that word, Geo. You can't get me off of that adjective. So we'll take a look to see what does roll out of spawn here for our first defending opportunity. But again, that second point is also a very interesting one, because typically you see those offensive teams trying to go towards where our cameraman is taking us, towards at least the right side, perspectively, trying to get that high ground and then fire on down. And it looks like we will be getting some, again, uniqueness here. The Orisa coming through. I see an Ashe on the screen as well, and the Sombra will be here to scout things out for our defense. And it looks like for the side of Alter Ego, they're going to just scout out themselves and then decide what they want to play and get into spawn and do some changes.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, this Ashe is actually not too much of a surprise to me. I did expect, especially with the sightlines in Horizon Lunar Colony, them to bring out a hit scan hero to try and stop that Pharah from being able to come out on the side of Alter Ego. So it looks like they're gonna... they're still switching things up. Oh, Yakumo already getting some ult charge there, up to the 36%. But yeah, Alter Ego switching things up. They're going to have this sort of protect the McCree composition where they'll be able to fire those resources into the McCree and be relying on GG to actually deal the damage into what Bilibili have to offer.
She was just completely lost there for a second. You saw him throw the flashbang, like at his feet, like, where are you? Get away from me. Over will find the first kill here, though, on the B612 and Alter Ego. They're going to have to wait for that Zenyatta to come back before they can even make an attempt here. I just don't know about this McCree, simply due to the fact that you're going to have Over just essentially spamming down those shields faster than McCree can break them. So I'm a little bit worried. I think there was a little bit too worried about Yakumo on this, this Sombra.
I'll be honest, I generally prefer an Ashe because she does have the dynamite that can deal the shield break, and I do agree with you. I don't think McCree can necessarily bring down that Orisa shield fast enough. Looking like they're actually going to be going out into space here, making it... I love watching the Reinhardt just float along. He looks way too heavy for it. But coming back in through a different way, maybe changing their mind. I can't tell if they're trying to bait or if they're just indecisive, but they are wasting their time regardless of which one it is.
Yeah, again, B612 was taken down early, and he's going to probably be taken down again. Actually, he's able to win the trade versus Yakumo, who had an isolated 1v1 just beyond the spawn doors by the look of it. So now all of a sudden, Alter Ego potentially come back through, but you can take a look to see where the charge is between those two Zenyatas. B612 not even close to the level of coldest at the moment, but they do have numbers. So Alter Ego looking for a way in. We'll be moving towards this right-hand side as you see it from Shy's perspective, waiting for the dynamite to come out. We'll be able to put it down, but the shield is in a very awkward spot for him to actually detonate it. So now it just comes down to being able to drop on down. There it is. It'll be Yakumo with the EMP to start things off. All of the front line fades away. Not able to have that Transcendence on time for B612. He was positioning himself correctly, but he just didn't have the Transcendence, so there's no way that they could save the front line.
Now, of course, we'll send Alter Ego back towards their spawn, but what I would like to see coming in with this, a minute and a half left on the clock, they can build up the rest of their own EMP and maybe even combine it with the Transcendence for that extra security in their engagement, but be able to bring down Bilibili Gaming. As they're playing a very stationary bunker-type composition, they'll be very, very prone to falling victim to an EMP if it's pulled off at the correct time.
That's what they have to be playing for, I think, at this point. There's nothing else to really open up yet. Shatter is close. Graviton Surge is close. EMP is close. And they're going to use, looks to be the rally for Alter Ego to start things off as they just go underneath the high ground and want to move around. But B612 is in so much trouble. And he's going to just narrowly escape with his life. But was getting very little help from his teammates as he was kind of caught a little bit off from everybody else. So now Shy trying to scope this one out, and everyone had to go back from Alter Ego to pick up B612. They're still waiting on all of those aforementioned charges. Meanwhile, Over will throw the supercharger down. It will just expire as Alter Ego hits the point with the sound barrier used to get there. Self-destruct sequence being thrown on the left-hand side, and Bomb coming down will take down 2. Coldness does fall as well as Shy, but it looks like this will continue to be a 4-on-4 for here. B612 looking for a way to move on to this point, but again, he needs some help from his frontliners to do so. First tick of progress is going to likely come through here, no problem. Yakumo trying to set up an EMP will hit it, and it is able to find 3, but it's not before B612 can get the Transcendence involved. Then it just comes down to, can they find the damage afterwards to take down these squishy targets? Over is outside the point. Shy able to switch over to the Tracer. Will find 1. The Graviton Surge honestly does not find much besides Zijin. Alter Ego still in control, looking to finish this one off as they need to do this a little bit more work, and it looks like with those kills, they should be able to finish things off. Transcendence used to distract, but again, these are just 3 support players essentially here with just Yakumo, and there's not enough frontline, I don't think, for them to actually win this fully out. But as I say that, J-Chow does get taken down, and respawns are coming back for Bilibili, who are finding more kills, and Alter Ego, how did you let this happen? You had so many numbers, but the target prioritization, Geo, just not there, and they get stopped on the first point.
I think what really happened in this map was that each team sort of had a plan as to how they were going to approach the fight, and they all thought that actually this is the thing that's going to tip it over into our favor, and there was always something that, excuse me, my microphone, there was always something that tipped it back. For example, we saw Bilibili perfectly manage their ultimates where they brought out the supercharger, which forced Alter Ego to stay in that room and therefore not be able to build up their own EMP. Meanwhile, Bilibili were being able to build up their EMP, and then right as they engaged, we saw the armor pack go onto the Reinhardt for Alter Ego, forcing them to use their resources, and that meant that Bilibili were then sort of in a favorable position. But of course, there were enough members of Alter Ego left on the point that they were able to turn the fight back around a little bit. And at that point, they started to have their own ultimates, while Bilibili had already used theirs. And it was a constant game of backwards and forwards here where, okay, we're going to invest these abilities and invest these ultimates. This is going to turn the fight around. And actually, it always didn't. And right at the end there, I even thought it was going to be over. And then that one last Transcendence came out. So there was always something else that was going to flip things back in their favor. And ultimately, when the time bank runs that low, you don't have the option to kind of back out, do a soft reset, and come back in and try again. So it really did have to come down to, okay, who's going to be at the tail end of this seesaw game?
My heart broke just a little bit right there for Alter Ego. They had it. They absolutely had it. J-Chow goes down, though, and then the front line comes back for Billy. It just feels so bad, man. So close, but feels bad, man.
Well, coming into this next attack, we actually now have Bilibili bringing Yakumo out on the Pharah, but they're going to be going against an Ashe and an Ana, which could be a bit of a problem. 2 hit scan heroes, which can really bring the Rocket Queen out of the sky.
But you see it with the Kumo and Shy playing on the Pharah and Hanzo. They're able to break the shield of J-Chow very quickly, allowing a lot of free space for Billy to move underneath. Just comes down to, when did they decide to go up top or get to the point? That's the big question, as Over is considering it. He just will take all 4 paws and move his way underneath and likely just touch from behind. Giant with the Pharah of his own, though, looking to counter some of this battle in the sky. Yakumo does find first blood, so now it just comes down to Billy. Can you find a way to break this opening point? Looks like the answer will very much so be yes, as Kaze does go down. Our newest substitute, as you mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast here for this 3rd map. J-Chow in a lot of trouble, does get pierced through by the Storm Arrows. One more shot from Shy will take down Gigi, and this is looking very bad for Alter Ego. They've lost so many resources already. You already see Mika is already in the Valkyrie, Coldness is already close to a Transcendence, and Shy has got a Dragon Strike. He'll send it right down Main Street, right through the pile driver of Kaze, although they do get May up for the Valkyrie of their own. So opportunity for Alter Ego to fight this one back, but they unfortunately lose the Mercy, and everybody else falls after that, and Billy will secure the first point, and they will be able to take down the 3-0 pretty quickly. And again, my heart just shatters every single time we see Alter Ego come that close to finding bits of success and then not fully find it again.
Well, I want to see what Panda says about that, because that was a little bit less close than we have seen in the 2 of the previous maps. He's not looking amused.
No.
He's not looking amused.
Words, huh? You want to hear some words about that match, huh?
Yeah, have you got him?
B612 is under all the pressure in the known universe. I mean, there's no reason why you need to be frontlining, man. I mean, like, come on, bro. Like, you're a supporter. Like, you have tanks on your team for a reason. You don't need to be taking all that damage. It's all right. Like, just experience tranquility, brother. It's cool, man. Like, but honestly speaking, I mean, the entire time for the attack of Alter Ego was just an entire runaround for them. They never had enough resources to even exist on the point, as they were always spending them rotating and trying to get poke damage along the way, which was one of the more interesting takes I've ever seen on that composition. More importantly, they took about 45 seconds to decide on what comp and which way they wanted to go from it. And that just allowed BLG to fully clean up on top of it. You can take a look at this these highlights that that are presented for you here, and Yakumo just has their way. Time and time again, this sets up Shy continuously, quite literally putting on a case for being a standout DPS, the breakout of the season, if you will. This clinic of Tracer and Ashe, hit scan, paralysis, just fantastic shots overall. You cannot shut down this man if you don't bring CC to the table, and Alter Ego just not up to the task today.
Unfortunately, not. At least not yet. But again, we still have one more map though. So Geo, I mean, Alter Ego again. It looks like it's falling apart a little bit, I guess is the best way of putting it.
Well, I think the one thing that BLG were able to do really well, especially on their attack there, was the fact they were able to force the positioning of Alter Ego, and when they're relying on this kind of bunker Orisa sort of situation, as soon as you force them out of that position and made them kind of doubt themselves, that's the exact gap in the armor that you need to be able to get into to actually take control of the point.
And Panda, I mean, the final thoughts so far before we go into a map number 4?
If I don't see any crowd control coming out of Alter Ego, we're going to see, if not a faster escort than what we saw in Hybrid.
Wow. Bold statements there from Panda. But, I mean, hey, the guy knows what he's talking about. He's here for a reason. We'll be back for a reason as well. We've still got 4 maps. Bilibili looking to keep themselves at only 1 map loss. Alter Ego just stretching for that first map win. We'll see if it can come true for them just after this. Lord, and welcome back. Bilibili currently looking at a very nice and hefty 3-0 over Alter Ego, as I'm sure most people would expect. But Alter Ego put up a little bit of a fight, still have one more chance, potentially again find that first map win in Contenders China. Geo, it's been a little bit all over the place, but Billy looked to be wrangling things back in, and then it last assault map.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as you say, Alter Ego, they looked like they were fighting back a lot, particularly on the first 2 maps. But in Horizon Lunar Colony back now, they sort of just looked like they were a little bit more indecisive.
Indecisive is definitely one word to say about it. Getting picked apart at the seams is another. Again, B612 not really having a chance to even fight in that first attack. But again, as we take a look at map number 4, as we're about to ready to go into it, I mean, again, this is kind of feeling like a very dire situation for Alter Ego. Again, a very formidable opponent here in Bilibili, but flat out, Geo, is just looking like this is as much of a mismatch as we would have anticipated, and a lot of cleaning up still to do for Alter Ego.
Yeah, I mean, we did just see on the bottom of your screen there, we are going to see X-Black come in for Gigi in Alter Ego, which we said at the beginning on the pre-game desk that actually we think X-Black may be arguably the best member of this team. So they could be able to turn things around, provide a little bit more, you know, of a threat to BLG, but whether or not that's actually going to throw the map in their favor is something entirely different. Horizon Lunar Colony did go very quickly, and in fact, even on Blizzard World, Alter Ego weren't able to get the payload to its first checkpoint. So even though they've shown some skill, they've shown some prowess, it hasn't been enough on any of the maps so far.
And X-Black, I think, is one of those characters, or one of those players you see come back in. He's got experience with Alter Ego before. He's one of those more damage-centric, kind of minded players, so maybe there is an opportunity to kind of go a little bit more heavy than that DPS. And we'll be heading to Watch Point Gibraltar, which, you know, who knows, maybe we'll see some sniper comps come on through for either or both teams. And I mean, this has been a lot of interesting, I think this map specifically, I mean, it's in the pool now. We have not seen this in the Overwatch League as far as this patch goes. So a lot of differences I'm sure we're expecting to see here. Again, still playing on the 1.32 patch. And we'll take a look to see what comes out of defense. But this map plays very, very differently on this patch versus the one that's live.
I mean, personally, I think this map is really going to play into the hands of Bilibili, because not only do they have Shy, who is just a disgusting Widowmaker, and of course you have the long sight lines here in Gibraltar where you can just aim straight down and pop those heads, but also over, of course, a fantastic Winston, and you pretty much will never see a Reinhardt be played on Watchpoint Gibraltar because of the number of high grounds that we have here. Of course, Coldest and Mika, we already know, are very, very strong. So I think this is really going to play into the hands of Bilibili. Not sure what's going on with this teleporter where we just kind of saw Alter Ego all fall off the side. Maybe let's ignore that one, but they're changing their composition up accordingly.
Looks like they actually are playing with a very interesting setup as X-Black will actually, there we go, I was going to say probably going to go over to the Zarya, which is what he typically plays, Kaze on the Diva, and we also are seeing Winter being subbed in for Bilibili. So a little bit of a swap all the way around, but it looks like we will be getting that 3-3 with the Winston as the main frontliner for both teams, and it looks like all of the bat, J-Chow, where are you going, friend? He just dives right into the entire team of Bilibili. I think he wanted to try to get some shield charge for Black, but there is nobody there to follow up with him, and that leaves the entire support line free, which is what gets cleaned up next, and Alter Ego will reconsider how that push went.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I think if I'm not mistaken, B612 on the Ana was really far back towards the spawn there, so not even particularly able to get a good sightline onto the rest of his team, so they were able to just be completely eaten alive. He switched over onto the Zenyatta now, but Coldest, of course, very far ahead of him in the ult charge.
This is tough situations here for Alter Ego. I mean, they're just getting picked apart out of spawn, and not only that, but goodness, look how far down they are in the ultimate economy. This is going to take quite some time for them to even get their first set of ultimates, let alone be able to contest the payload for a full push to the first stage. So with even 2.5 minutes to go through for this, Alter Ego's going to play a pretty perfect game.
Yeah, they don't have all too many options for compositional swaps either, given that if they go dive, then they're pretty much going to be really messed up. I'm not sure what was up with that Graviton Surge there. Not really going to get anything.
I guess, as you said, a little bit messed up. That would probably include Shy's placement of the Graviton Surge, just a bit short of where he wanted it on that corner. So, again, maybe some things start to go Alter Ego's way, and they can find some success here. Again, that was a free, I guess, ultimate economy change in their favor. As you can see, X-Black is just at the 70% mark towards his Graviton Surge, and now rotating from the underneath, moving over to the left-hand side as they want to try to contest from this inner area, or maybe even just go up further to the high ground, which is exactly what's going to happen. X-Black now very low charge, and they're going to get pushed. Oh my goodness, I don't think the Alter Ego expected this push to come back through. They were so worried about getting the high ground. Billy just speed through right behind him and say, hey, how you doing? This is our spot. Go ahead and reconsider how you want to approach this as they get the full reset.
The issue with making a rotation like that is what you generally expect in a composition like this is to use that projected barrier on the main tank and allow them to lead. But because the whole team went up together in the middle of where another team already was, they put the projected barrier onto the main tank, but that still meant that everybody else was fairly unprotected, especially as without the Reinhardt, you don't have that massive shield. So it just didn't take all that much for Bilibili to bring down members of Alter Ego, but they do now actually have 6 ultimates online.
Yeah, but Shy has actually overlapped X-Blacks on the charge for the Graviton Surge. All the particle effects coming through as we're seeing everything being used in tandem, and they, oh, really nicely, the struck from Kaze, able to put it right on top of everybody, and a little bit of a pushback to help clean up some of that front line, and it looks like Alter Ego will finally find some success here as everything was traded pretty much in tandem like we were mentioning, but again, the self-destruct just a little bit better for Alter Ego that time through. J-Chow and the Primal Rage will clean everything up, and Alter Ego, they're going to find themselves the first checkpoint, but more importantly, with time on the board.
Yeah, 3 minutes though, it could be a lot better, but you know, any time on the board is good for Alter Ego. Of course, they haven't necessarily been so great in that field thus far in the series, Shift.
Yeah, absolutely, for real. And now it just comes down to Bilibili able to respond with a very early setup defensively. The speed boost coming through. Shy still at high charge. Already almost to another Graviton Surge, by the way. Gonna overlap X-Black again, just winning the Zarya v Zarya matchup, which is a very important one here through the second stage. And Alter Ego are gonna have to, again, be down at the ultimate economy, need to find a way to bounce back.
This is actually going to be very difficult for Alter Ego to push through. Oh, I'm hearing a Graviton Surge, but looking again like it's not really going to get anything. Shy, what is going on here? But it's going to be very hard for Alter Ego to actually push through this archway here, this doorway, because it is somewhat of a choke point. It is surrounded by high grounds that Bilibili Gaming can just completely control. It's going to make it very, very hard for them to get under. Actually switching over onto that Reinhardt here, which, as I said earlier, is very rare that you see on Watchpoint Gibraltar.
I honestly think that Graviton Surge was just the solo surge up Black, essentially saying, hey, buddy, I know you've been sitting on the sidelines, but welcome to the Thunderdome.
I have so many, I'm just going to throw them.
Exactly, over in the Primal Rage, will be sucked into the Graviton Surge. Here comes another self-destruct sequence, and it will find Mika. So another opportunity here for Alter Ego to find some success. The Transcendence comes in pretty good timing as well. It does come in tandem with the rally, but the kills are starting to pop up for Alter Ego. things are looking pretty solid for them to move on through this second point, and I'm sure Shy wishes he had that Graviton Surge back there.
Perhaps so, and I think we saw quite a decent Discord placement there coming out from B612 as we did see his little face popping up in the assist in the kill feed there, and that's what you really want to be looking for, is this kind of coordination. And if Alter Ego can get themselves together, then this could lead to some momentum and carry them forwards.
Absolutely could. J-Chow does have an Earth Shatter, but it's very low already. Needs to stay behind the shield and get some help, and he's just not getting it. No armor pack placement whatsoever, as Giant was also dealing with some health issues of his own, and looks like Bilibili will just stomp right on through, let the steamroller run through this team fight, and they will clean up a couple more before they end up going back to more friendlier confines by the payload.
Yeah, I think that's a bit unfortunate there for B612, who actually jumped down off the high ground straight into a charge from Over, who I don't think originally was even going for him. That was a pretty poor timing there. But, you know, you said Shy would want that Graviton Surge back, and he's got it ready, Shift. So we're going to be watching out for Kaze to use that defense matrix to maybe catch it and swallow it down.
Over, maybe in a little bit of trouble, does drop a little bit earlier than I think he wanted to, but did catch a projected barrier, and now it just comes down to the rest of Bilibili, able to fall right on top of this Graviton Surge. Giant will be taken down. J-Chow tried to throw down the Earth Shatter, but does not find as much as would be needed to turn this fight around, as J-Chow does fall immediately afterwards. The sound barrier comes through for Billy. Over will likely hold on to this Earth Shatter, as they've already cleaned up the majority of the fight, and that looks to be the case. Actually, he's going to just stomp one more through, as there was one hiding, didn't see him. That will be it. Overtime fading away. Bilibili will hold just underneath the Aurora on the second stage.
Yeah, so at least the Alter Ego get it some of the way, you know, it's better, it's better than nothing. In that 3 minutes, they managed to get it to just under that ship there, and they did manage to turn things around. Of course, they did win, of course, that really key fight to actually push the payload forward, and that was when we saw Bilibili switch from the Winston to the Reinhardt. Of course, when you're running a Reinhardt, you don't really want to be running a Winston into that, even though this map generally favors the Winston. I nearly said the Reinhardt then, and caught myself. But I don't know, I think given what we've seen, and especially knowing that Bilibili have such an advantage on this kind of composition, they've proven time and time again that they're so much better at it, that this next attack for them is going to be so easy. You know, I really don't see a world in which Alter Ego are going to be able to hold Bilibili back at the spawn, the original spawn, as long as Bilibili were able to hold Alter Ego. I mean, they just didn't know what they were doing with their attack.
Yeah. I mean, all it takes, though, at the same point is, you know, Alter Ego just needs to win that first fight, get themselves up in the ultimate economy, and they can at least, you know, chip away at that time bank. Again, I think you hit it right on the head. I think Billy was just so far ahead early, it definitely allowed them to be as aggressive as they were defensively against Alter Ego. Then you take a look at Shy kind of missing that first grab, and then the tides kind of start to change. So if you're Alter Ego, you need to hope for more of those little mistakes that you can take full advantage of. It did take them, again, like 5 to 6 ultimates to break through that first point. But hey, a point is a point at the end of the day when it comes down to, you can't think about completing the map unless you complete the first stage of it. So that was definitely a moment to kind of take a look at it for Alter Ego and say, all right, we kind of need to make sure that we're getting our first defense set up. Make sure we don't make that many mistakes, try to have the ultimate efficiency, and maybe we'll actually find ourselves a decent setup here. But Bilibili off the gate will already have control of the payload and look to set things up. Giant with the Bastion, Geo.
Yeah, Alter Ego have this Bastion-based bunker comp, but actually weren't already in position by the time Bilibili started the attack, so they're already going under this car wash here, and Alter Ego don't have a position set up. This is really bad news for them. This is
terrible news. They're going to have to play in the server room, and that's going to have a very narrow line of sight, and this is what I fear. Billy can essentially just rotate up to the high ground. They can pick and choose their fights. You already see Over dives on in, projected barrier there, Shy full charge, and he's going to start melting everybody in front, although I say that, and it does come at the cost, but I don't know if the cost was steep enough, as we do have trades moving back and forth. Still numbers favoring Alter Ego. It looks like with the sustain of Ana being there, they will hold just narrowly so. Again, Billy, they were able to punish quickly, but Alter Ego need to figure out their defensive setup quick.
Even so, Bilibili have managed to get this payload 60 meters with 3 minutes remaining, so while they may get pushed off it, they're going to be able to make another really quick engage, but they also just have not very much distance to cover with quite a decent time bank.
Oh, B612 down again early, no transcendence coming through. Winter will just hit the go card on the rally. will fall themselves into quite literally a little bunker here in this corner as they back up. Giant is able to just shoot through all of these shields. Now configuration Tank comes out, looking to clean people up in front, but does get shield bashed. He also was boosted during this. He's just not finding the targets that he needs to, and it looks like with that, Billy will be able to keep themselves contesting. Giant will find one onto Over and set himself back up. That's going to be enough to hopefully take down Winter. The Transcendence comes through. Self-destruct sequence does take down Giant. Numbers are here. It just comes down to, can Shy chew through the rest of this team of Alter Ego? Looks like the answer will be yes. Arista the last one to pay respects to the checkpoint, and this will be Billy moving through the first stage, no problem.
And with a composition like the one that Alter Ego were running, you really want to be relying on that Bastion, and when he's just not getting enough value out of the hero, then you're going to very easily lose the fight. In fact, we saw Winter get slept, Bastion straight away going to shoot him, but while that of course woke him up, because that's what happens when you deal damage onto someone who is sleeping, he didn't get that kill because the Transcendence came online from Coldest. So even these kills which you thought you might think should be easy, should be fairly free, just aren't working out for Alter Ego. So of course making a switch up here to the Ana version of Goats.
And it will be actually Giant this time playing the Zarya. Black will be sticking on the Brigitte for now. Zijin looking for a way to potentially take down Black, and he had the only ultimate available for Alter Ego, so now it's a 6-on-5. Stark advantages for Bilibili as they hit the rally. B612 just trying to heal as much as possible, but I just don't think there's enough in that kind of biotic sniper rifle that she carries to battle with her. The damage is dealt, the kills are there, the point should be pushed. It just comes down to taking care of Ana, and there it is. It looks like Bilibili, as long as they can clean up this staggered composition coming out in desperate time, they will be able to secure this one, no problem. J-Chow being annoying, but likely not going to be annoying enough, as it just comes down to, again, all the ultimates are still here for Billy, as you see Over in the Primal Rage, able to slap players away and take Kaze out of mech. Numbers too good. Billy push the point and take the 4-0 versus Alter Ego.
And with just, I don't know, literally no time, that went over in a complete flash. Again, on these sorts of compositions, these very tank-heavy, Bilibili just look like they have so much dominance. But let's see what Panda thinks, because didn't last very long. I want to see if he can roll his eyes harder.
The only thing that got rolled harder was these few attacks coming out of BLG. I mean, like, BLG quite literally a steamroll coming out here and showing all of their strengths and why they're undefeated so far, leading into week 5 of all things, only dropping 1 map throughout the entirety of it. You mentioned Over. I'm going to say player Over at that, too. This player in particular is not afraid to even claim space, but he takes it by brute force, breaking your ankles along the way. Always making sure that you're second-guessing your own resource management and shield management at that. He was quite literally bodying J-Chow in the neutral, too. And, you know, J-Chow, since week 1, always had some pretty static play. I'm not going to lie on Reinhardt. Not necessarily consistently great in those neutral matchups, but still held their own against many other tanks along the way. Leading up to this, however, is where you got to see why Over got the name of one of the best main tanks in Season 3 at the end of the 2018 season, is because of just that. Their Winston and their Reinhardt seamless in between one another. You can take a look at some of these highlights too, some of these awkward engagements that got fought over through the car wash and area. This is just going to be BLG time and time coming through. Even subbing in Winter Brigitte for Brigitte meant almost absolutely nothing at that moment too. You even saw Alter Ego more or less testing X-Black coming in for Gigi. Giant played Brigitte at one point, and then when they played that Bastion comp, they kind of got stumbled, where I think they wanted to keep X-Black on the Zarya as they originally did for their attack, but because Giant was already on Bastion and giving up tank configuration from those staggers, never got the full chance to swap over to a full 3-3 in comfort. More or less, it was a last team fight scenario anyway, so that was already a final nail in the coffin for them. But again, all of the setup that I was just mentioning for the entire team of BLG is all just a setup Shy. I mean, the star DPS, again, even when they throw away Graviton Surge, they're just right there with the tracking and the clean damage just to have another one right off the break. Don't necessarily always need a Pulse Bomb 2 on Tracer, do they? They're just always locking down a lot of damage and finding a lot of eliminations along the way.
And now, Final as we move on through playoff implications here, Geo. Billy, they pretty much secure themselves a spot. They play up against T1W, though, next week. That's going to be an absolute barn burner. But for the side of Alter Ego, playoffs essentially nilled at this point. There's really no real good chance at them going through, but they do have a chance at a map when they play TSL next week. Kind of implications for Alter Ego after you've seen them play today?
They could surprise us, but also TSL have definitely improved this season based on what we saw of them last season. So also I wouldn't be surprised if TSL managed to get another 4-0. I suppose you never know. It depends on if Alter Ego can really pull themselves together and get a little bit more coordinated. Yes, we've seen that players like Giant do have that raw skill, but if they just can't work together enough and to the level that is required to sort of overshadow another team, then it's just not going to work out for them, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them go 0-20.
All right, well, Panda, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Again, coming up just after the break, we've got 666 Legend taking on LGD Gaming just after the break. Don't go anywhere. Third set coming up soon.